hello, everybody. Good morning, good morning, good morning. I know that it is early. I hope that you guys are having an amazing start to your day. But I wanted to come and talk about something just briefly that I think is so important for many of us. We are in a tremendously difficult time, and we are all, facing, difficult and different circumstances. But I wanted today to talk about the importance of letting go. Many of us have gone through things in our lives. We have, been hurt. We have oftentimes been abused. We've been offended. Whatever hurt means to you. And one of the most difficult things in the life of a person is getting past a hurt or getting past offense. More importantly, letting go. And so I just want today just to give a few tips on how to let go. Now, before I give these tips, one of the things that I want to say is whatever you're letting go, I believe that these tips can apply to that, but it's so important for us to be committed and willing to truly get over things. And, I believe that letting go has to be an intentional act of a person. Sometimes people say things like time heals all wounds, and that is not necessarily the case, especially if a person has been unwilling to let go of a painful experience, or a pain or some form of offense that may have occurred. For those of you who don't know, I am Ebony Vaughn of Vaughn Therapeutic Systems, and so often I come with just clinical strategies or interventions or simple tips that may help you get through difficult situations. Good morning, good morning. And so I'm going to get right into it. First and foremost, like I said before, many of us have experienced offense. We have experienced hurt, and some of us have had the unfortunate experience of living through a type or a form of abuse, whether physical, mental, emotional, whatever that might be, sexual. Many of us have experienced the hurt or abuse. And one thing that I want to say is it is so important for us to seek the help that we need if we find ourselves unable to get past a hurt, offense, or a form of abuse that we may have experienced. The first thing that I want to say, it goes back to what I've already said. In order for you to let go, you must make a decision to let go. You have to commit to yourself to get over that hurt or to get over the pain of your past or your experiences. Now, it doesn't diminish what happened nor give a pass to anyone that may have offended you or harmed you, but you have to commit to live again. You have to commit to truly move past that situation or circumstance. The other thing that, I want to say in terms of tips is it's important for us to allow ourselves to experience the emotions that is attached to whatever that event is, which means it's not about denying the existence of your pain. It's not about suppressing your pain, but it's really about allowing yourself time to express that pain, whether that is through communication, whether that is through you personally processing it. But we have to allow ourselves to experience the emotions that we have received as a result of that event. So what are we talking about? For those who are just, coming on, we're talking about letting go, being able to move past the pain of our past. And so I am just giving quick tips on what you can do to get past that. The other thing is to create a distance. If the people that harmed you are still in your life, it is important for you to create distance from them, whether that is emotional distance, physical distance, or mental distance. Now, in some cases, hurt and pain, it could be in our marriages, it could be in our within our relationships of our children. So in some instances, you may not be able to physically remove yourself from the presence of where you've been offended or where you've been harmed, but you have to get to the place where you mentally and emotionally create distance so that you can really process your feelings and emotions, so that you really can experience the feelings that you have, so that if communication is needed and if repairing is needed, you're able to come back with a frame of mind that is not irrational and vindictive or even in that place of fighting, but you're able to come back and truly communicate. So you want to create that distance to give yourself time to process it, to give yourself time to think through it, right? It also gives you that time to assume the responsibility if it's you where the responsibility lies. Because we know whenever there's pain or hurt, we can't always assume that it's coming from other people. Sometimes our pain and our hurt is a result of some things that we may be struggling with. So another part of getting past our hurts or getting, being able to let go, it has to do with acceptance of what happened, but also assuming responsibility where necessary. This is not the place to get into denial. When we are processing or when we are, really going through the feelings and the emotions of, pain, we often forget about the part that we might have played. Now, I am not by any means assuming that both people always have to have a part in hurt or abuse, because that's not always the case. But what I am saying is, if it's a situation where you may have been responsible for some of that hurt or pain, it's important for you not to be in denial and play the blame game, but in your processing, be willing to assume responsibility. So what does that mean? There's some self-work that you're going to do. You're going to do some self-work in terms of what could I have done differently to change this? Although I am hurting and I am offended, how can I get better? What can I do so that this will never happen again? Now, there are some times where you have to understand that there are things that are beyond your control and had nothing to do with your behavior. But if you identify things that you could have done differently, embrace them and allow yourself to move forward, understanding that you'll grow, understanding that things will be different if this happens again. The other thing is, accepting responsibility does not negate the pain that someone else has inflicted upon you. But what it says is, I assume responsibility in the part that I played. Now, some people might say, I know this. This is all, this is elementary. This is, we know these things. I think that it's important for us often to revisit this, especially because the biggest problem we have at times is moving on, letting go. We hold on to too many things, and it hinders us from progress, and it causes us to stay in a stuck of pain, it causes us to be stuck in a state of anger and resentment. So these are the things that we really want to work on. Refuse victimhood. Again, we're talking about assuming assuming responsibility and doing the self-work necessary for you to move on. The other thing that I want to talk about is, relinquishing the thought that you had control over that. And what I mean by that is there are some instances where we have been abused or offended where we absolutely had no control over the situation. And so in our minds, when we are processing this, we often have this idea that we had a level of control over something. And so I am simply saying, relinquish the idea that you had control over what that other person did, but learn to accept that that is something that happened that was beyond your control. And there is absolutely nothing you could have done to change that situation. Now, that is not in all cases, but you have to be able to embrace that in the cases where it was. The other thing is to be patient with yourself. Allow yourself time to heal. Allow yourself the time needed to heal, and don't force yourself through a process of healing, denying the pain that still exists. Many of us are operating in painful places right now, but we think that we are free, and we're really not. And so it's important for us to really get gut level honest with ourselves in terms of where you are really. If you are still hurting, admit that, embrace that, and get past it with your intentional acts. There are so many of us that are living in pain right now as I speak. And we are inflicting our emotional state on those that are in our lives. Because the idea is hurt people hurt people. And so if we are living in a state of pain or being hurt, and we have other people in our lives where we are distrustful, where, maybe we are not the best in our relationships, oftentimes that means, or that is an indication that we haven't let go of some things in our past. So, so don't deny the existence of pain, but allow yourself to get through it daily, and really stop yourself from inflicting the same pain that you possess onto another person. Challenge and replace your negative thoughts. Your negative and painful thoughts have no place in your future. And so it's important for you to challenge them. You have to challenge your negative thoughts. Now, this may happen every second, every minute, because the idea is if we are ruminating over negative and painful thoughts, it's almost as if they are obsessive. And so in order for you to get past those thoughts, you have to replace them with better ones. You have to replace them with healing thoughts. You have to replace them with positive affirmations and things that will help you grow. When we talk about getting past something, when we talk about letting go, you have to understand that it is an intentional act of your will to let something go. And finally, it's important for us to forgive. You have to learn to forgive. A lot of times we've heard where it says forgiveness is about you and not about the other person. It is about you, and it's about the other person. It's about you because you are choosing to let go of the state of victimhood. You are choosing to move forward and relinquish the hold that someone has on you. But you're also relinquishing, that person from being in your life. What that means is sometimes when we don't forgive a person, what we do is we keep that person current in our lives. We carry them with us year after year after year because we refuse to forgive. And so part of that forgiveness process has to do with you relinquishing, you removing them from your state of being, from your state of mind. You remove them from the ability to hurt you again. Because if you are still harboring resentment and unforgiveness, you are reliving the pain of that hurt and that offense. And so it's important for you to not only, free yourself, but also free that other person. That doesn't mean that you are diminishing what has been done, but you are simply understanding that it's important for you to move forward. You can't forget, so don't try to forget. You can't stuff or deny, so don't try to. Do not wait for an apology. Forgive. Learn to forgive and move on. And do not wait or expect an apology or the reason why. Those things are not important as it relates to you moving forward and your emotional stability. Some of us are waiting for someone to come back and tell us why they did what they did. It is simply not necessary at a certain point. There comes a time in your life where it's more important to relinquish yourself from the pain of your past as opposed to, coming to terms with the why. Sometimes we will never get, sometimes you don't have access to the why. And so it's important for you to be willing to move forward without an answer, without an apology. The expectation is freedom comes from you and from God and not from another individual. And this is very difficult for some people because some people are right now waiting for a person to come back and apologize. And you have to get to that place where your freedom is much more important than that person's apology. The other thing is understand that you can't redo anything, but what you can do is create new. You can't redo, but you can create new. You can create new ways of thinking. You can create new relationships. You can create new environments that are full of positivity and growth and development as opposed to toxicity and despair, glory to God, and grief. It's important for you to understand that you can't redo anything, but you can create new. So start creating new experiences that help bring fulfillment and joy in your life, and choose to let go of the past. I hope that this was helpful. Just a few tips. There are so many more, but it is time for us to let go and move forward and allow God to truly heal us. This is not a perfect process, nor is it a time process. For many of us, it may take months, years, or even, or maybe sometimes days to get past something. But there must be an intention to let go. God bless you and have an amazing day. This is Ebony Vaughn from Vaughn Therapeutic Systems.